Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along on this Friday evening to the Football Insomniac. We're starting a bit earlier tonight, so we might have caught some of you off guard, but as always, I am joined by my co-host Sean McGill. Sean, how's it going?
I'm not too bad. I'm melting a wee bit here. You've dragged me inside, and I think it's warmer in my house than it is outside, so I'm just about doing all right. What about yourself?
But I tell you what, I'm here in A State of Mind Studios. Producer Paul's in the background, and it is roasting here today. I think we're in the middle of a heat wave, which, I mean, we all moan when it's too hot and we moan when it's too cold. There must just be a just right temperature for Scottish people.
Mine's about 12 degrees, probably.
Yeah, so somewhere between 12 and 15 degrees. That's usually quite nice. A big warm welcome to you wherever you're joining us. We're live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Periscope. If you're watching on YouTube today, please subscribe to the channel. We've just broke through 12.8k subscribers. Trying to get it to the 13k mark as soon as possible. Everyone that does subscribe is entered into a prize draw to win a fantastic The Verve Golden, or is it Platinum CD for the Urban Hymns album. I think you get that if you sell over, is it 500,000 copies or something like that? Fantastic. Look, we've already got comments coming in. Brown Warrior comes in to say, Scottish folk just moan. That is true. Fraser Ogilvie coming in to say 12 and 15 degrees, no going on holiday with you lads. Look, I don't mind it when we're on holiday, but you just don't expect it here in Scotland.
I do mind it. I need to hide in the shade. But I've came on this show sunburnt too many times. It's not even been that warm. So abroad is just an absolute nightmare.
And Studio O'Reilly coming in to say, what up, Colin? Well, what up to yourself, mate, and to Sean, obviously, as well. Don't forget Sean. We are going to be talking about the transfer rumours so far across the globe. A bit of transfer speculation happening in Scotland today as well. And that's not talking about Kilmarnock and Ayr sharing a kit for next season. We'll not cover that. I know that's triggered Sean a bit.
I've just, you said you're not going to come to me, so let's not. Let's keep going.
We'll leave it at that. Let's start with the main topic, but we see it on the screen. Will pay-per-view survive once fans return to the ground? Now, it's been 12 months since the pay-per-view model came into Scottish football. The agreement between the SPFL and with Sky that games could be shown by the clubs on a pay-per-view system. Now, Sean, obviously, I don't want to rub it in too much, but Kilmarnock are playing in the Championship this season, so there is no television deal. So a lot of the time, if you're not catching a game, it's going to be on pay-per-view. First of all, watching last season as a Kelly fan, how did you feel the pay-per-view system worked?
Pretty well. I mean, coming out, it came from nothing, obviously. This wasn't something that clubs expected to have to do on such a big scale. Of course, a lot of them would have had been doing it for international subscribers, international fans for a while. But to do it, deliver it to Scottish fans at home who expect a certain level of production and match coverage was completely new to them. And I mean, something had to happen. The way that we support football in this country, there had to be some way for fans to see games. And Sky didn't take up more games. It wasn't sort of done that way. No other coverage seemed to happen. Of course, it's an exclusive deal with Sky. So I think that doing it through the clubs actually worked pretty well. And the thing I found in the Premiership was the big sort of variations in price. So, for example, Celtic Rangers were about a tenner for most games, I think.
We didn't even cover them.
Yeah, well, when Celtic let fans watch games.
Yeah.
Rangers was about a tenner, I think, and then the teams with sort of a bit more of a support tended to be around £12. Your Kellys, Dundee United's, Motherwell's, and then at the other end of the spectrum, Livy were £20. And that's quite a big jump, isn't it? And £20 to sit in your home and watch a streaming. Livy were actually one of the ones who I thought put out really good quality stuff. The flip side of it, and for people like me, is that it's actually given club staff and sort of student journalists as well the chance to do coverage for clubs that we never would have expected to do. Like I was mentioning, Callum Brown at Livy got a lot of praise for the work he did alongside Dave Black. Finlay Jack at Queen of the South is another one that stands out as someone who received a lot of praise throughout it, and rightfully so. I mean, I never expected to get the opportunity to do commentary, and I have been with Bonnyrigg Rose, so in that sense, it's come up and it's given people an opportunity for clubs to put their own mark on stuff, for clubs to get creative, which is what media staff are there to do. And as a fan, I thought if they're not going to be shown on Sky, sometimes the punditry and stuff was better than what you get on these mainstream channels. So all in all, I think it was good, but it obviously will struggle as fans get back into grounds, and that's what we want to see, that fans are there to watch their team.
Now, there's a big kind of flip side to this, and we're just going to bring up a comment in a second, but whilst you mentioned it, let's have the plug for tomorrow's games. Obviously, yourself and a familiar face to this channel, Amy Canavan, are the commentators for Bonnyrigg Rose, and a lot of the Celtic fans that will be watching might be interested in tuning in to see this Colts' first game in the Lowland League, which is against Bonnyrigg. So a wee plug for the game tomorrow, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very interested to see what sort of team Celtic put out, if there's any sort of familiar faces on it, or if they will be, if that's maybe an indicator that they'll be part of the first team squad. And I think for us as well, I mean, we have consistently been one of the best teams in the Lowland League for the past 2 seasons since we were promoted to it. Only Celtic Hearts have scored more points than us over the last 2 seasons combined. So I think that if people followed the Scottish Cup over the last couple of seasons, Bonnyrigg have had some great runs and ran Dundee very, very close at Dens Park last season. A fantastic performance from a non-league side. So I think it'll be a really good game, a really competitive game. And first game this season, you want to get off to a good start. Obviously, there will be high aspirations for both teams to have a good season. For the Colts, I think they need to try and show what they can bring to a league. I think that's kind of the point. I think that obviously there's reports this week that there won't be an expansion to the SPFL, but I think they're there on this 1-year basis to try and show that they can be a positive addition to Scottish football, and it will take fans a lot to accept that. I mean, our members personally voted, 95% of them voted not to have the Colts in the league. It's a democracy. That vote went the way that it did, and we just look forward to hopefully having a positive start to the season and a good game of football for everyone. And
for anyone that wants to catch the game, how can they do so?
Yeah, so just head to Bonnyrigg Rose social media feeds. It's at Bonnyrigg Rose on Twitter or Bonnyrigg Rose Athletic on Facebook. All the details are there. If you want to go straight to the website, it's bonnyriggrosefc.co.uk, and it's £5.99 to catch the game. And there'll also be commentary from myself and Amy Canavan, and hopefully we won't talk too much rubbish to turn you off.
And I'm expecting a shout out, Sean. So either yourself or Amy.
I'm less tempted now.
I'm not fussy, but we potentially will be covering the game here on A Celtic State of Mind. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow, depending on if we can get a solid stream to work. Speaking of solid streams, right? This comment comes in from Van. Rightly or wrongly, folk with any sense will pay £60 a year for a good, reliable Fire Stick app for everything. Now, IPTV is what we're talking about here. Let's not beat around the bush. And I know plenty of people, including myself, who have dabbled in IPTV. They've got the subscription to put it through a Fire Stick. Yeah, we know it's not legal. We know there's implications to using it. Sometimes it's a terrible service that you get. But let's take a look at the price point here. Now, Van says roughly about £60 a year for IPTV, right? Last season alone, if you subscribed to Sky Sports, who covered the majority of Scottish Premiership games, although they didn't fill their quota, you're paying roughly about £25 a month. So you do that over the year, £25 is roughly what, £300? £300 roughly? Yeah, £300. That was what it works out at. BT Sport, now, you might not have to subscribe to that because there was no Scottish football on it, but they still did a Scottish football show, so you throw it in there. Again, £20 a month, so you're talking £240. And then Premier Sports, which covered the League Cup, it covered the Scottish Cup, and it had some of the friendlies and some of the European games. Again, roughly about £10 a month, another £120 you're thrown in there. So all in all, off that, it's the best part of £600 just on a TV subscription package, and that's before we even look at the pay-per-views. Now, people can't afford to do that. They can't. So the point that Van's bringing up there, rightly or wrongly, people are paying £60 a year for the exact same service. You can see why it's so popular.
Yeah, definitely. I think with pay-per-view last season, as much as it was tempting to maybe try and find alternative routes, I personally, and it's funny other people didn't feel this way, but I personally felt a little bit of sort of like social responsibility because we knew that Scottish football clubs would have been feeling it very hard throughout the pandemic, and that's particularly out with sort of Celtic and Rangers. I mean, I didn't want to spend £18 to watch St Johnstone versus Kilmarnock. I wasn't really that. I mean, I think it cost me £18 to go to McDiarmid Park as a student.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I just thought that clubs need the money just now, and I think that we seem to get fans back in soon, and it should go up to 1,000 next week. It's sort of like a base level, and of course we're seeing that over 9,000 fans will be in Celtic Park next week, and about 6,000 in Pittodrie. It's promising, but I didn't feel too great about trying to sort of, especially my own club as well. Every week that I was in the house on a Saturday, I wanted to give some money to the club because I want them to be okay financially. But you can completely understand why people would do that. And I guess in that sense, it was good that Sky got that exclusive deal that you don't necessarily have to pay for BT. But then we're talking about no Scottish League games. It's true, but if you want to watch Rangers and Celtic in the Champions League or Europa League, you're going to have to be there as well. And the same will be said for the Conference League when that turns around. St Johnstone could be Europa League as well, of course. I hope that's the case. But Hibs and Aberdeen fans, if they don't have BTs just now and they want to watch Conference League games, they'll have to get BT as well. We don't even know what the full picture is with that yet. So clarity is an issue. And just that, having to go from multiple different outlets to watch your club play in different competitions is, honestly, it's a nightmare. And you wish that, I personally, as someone who's sort of interested in media and all that sort of stuff, would wish that the BBC and STV particularly sort of stepped up their game and paid for free-to-air TV. I mean, the fact that Scotland national games are behind a paywall, I think, is pretty shocking. BBC, of course, have stepped up in the last few years with the return of the Scottish Cup games, and they show Friday night championship games. But I think that the fact that there's been no live sport or Scottish football on STV for decades now, obviously, they had some Euros games there, is pretty disappointing as one of our national broadcasters. So I think more needs to be done across the board that makes it work for fans. I mean, that's the thing that fans often seem to get disregarded in this situation. It's about getting money at the top, and it's no sort of surprise that people have become disillusioned.
No, I mean, I remember kind of some of my earliest memories of watching Scottish football was always watching games live on BBC Scotland. And that is the era where you had guys like, I'm trying to think, you had guys like Laudrup and you had guys like Larson and the top quality players that were playing in the league, and it was on BBC. So it was open for everyone. I don't think I missed a single game because it was there. And if you did, Sports Scene was there. It was on a Saturday night. And if you didn't see Sports Scene, there was Scott Sport on STV as well. So you caught up with everything in the top two leagues of Scottish football. Now, it just becomes even more difficult. Now, we're going to speak about the pay-per-view model, and there's two reasons I'm speaking about it. One is, as you mentioned, fans are getting back into the grounds. I think at level zero, most clubs can have 2,000 fans in, and for some, that's almost a full house to what they would expect to have in through the door. Others, obviously, slightly different. You mentioned there Celtic getting 9,000 in for the Champions League qualifier. But we do hope that in the coming weeks that the restrictions will be lifted, and that there'll be no limit on the capacity that you can have inside the ground. And fans, will they still tune in to these pay-per-view games that they wouldn't have went to before because it's not on TV? It wasn't an option that was there before. If you were playing at Ross County and it wasn't on TV, then there was no way to watch it. You just had to kind of listen to the radio, or will you now continue on the pay-per-view model? And the other reason is that in French football this week, it was announced that they're going on to Amazon Prime, and for Amazon Prime it's going to be €12.99 a month, and it will cover every single French game. So that is one of the points that's been brought up here by Fraser Ogilvie in a response to someone saying, if it's your club and they have a good service, then it's different. But the problem is that many clubs don't have a clue how this Netflix thing works, and that is the idea behind it. When the SPFL were given this opportunity, for me, this was a chance for them to create an app that had every single game on it. The cut was shared across all 12 clubs, and instantly there was a way where people would say, well, do you know what? I'm not actually going to go on to buy a subscription to X, Y, or Z. I'm not going to buy, or I'm not going to go on places like He's Goal that shows the games live. I'm actually going to subscribe to this platform, very similar to what English football's done with iFollow, and it's been a massive success for them. But you look at it, Ross County fans paid over £250 in pay-per-view if they wanted to watch their team all last season. Do you know how much Kilmarnock was?
We were one of the highest ones because we weren't on Sky that much, like 190, 180?
£239. That's how much it would cost you. On top of, say, your season ticket as well. What's your season ticket? About £300, £350?
Yeah, for an adult, yeah.
Yeah. So between that, between Sky, between your season ticket, Premier Sports, BT Sport, and pay-per-view, you're the best part of £1,000 to watch your team from the comfort of your own house last season. When fans go back into the game, surely this isn't sustainable.
No, I don't think it is. I think that it's an option to have for people who can't get to games, or like if you live. I'm not particularly close to Kilmarnock. It's not always the easiest for me to get to a game.
Mm-hmm.
How much I've missed it over this time then. If I'm there, if I'm available on a Saturday, if the Rose aren't playing, then I think I would travel pretty much anywhere at this moment in time because I've missed it so much. But for convenience-wise, people always can. But the argument's always been that if you have this option, it's like the 3 o'clock sort of blackout thing. If there was a football game on the telly at 3 o'clock, would people still go to games? And I think we've seen over this period of time that how much people miss going to the football. I mean, Kilmarnock had about 2.7 thousand season ticket holders last season. It's up at almost 4 now. And we're in the lower division. People are desperate to get back to the football. So I think that by having that option there, I don't think it's that big a deterrent of people going. But the numbers will definitely fall off, and I imagine it could be costly to have the sort of multiple cameras running. You're paying presenters, commentators. I mean, some of the names that people managed to pull in for their coverage last season was pretty impressive across the Scottish Premiership. But I mean, if you're not getting sort of a sizable number of people tuning in, is that is he still able to do that? I don't know. It's going to be hard to see if that's sustainable.
It's interesting, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's interesting you mentioned that, because some of these clubs have been doing this now for a long time. Teams like Celtic have had a subscription service for fans that are out with their country who pay maybe £160 a year, I think it is, and they're able to watch every single game because they're out with the UK. Now, if you go on the model that we were just speaking about, if that's Livingston, to watch 38 Livingston games on a pay-per-view service is the best part of £760. Now, I think the problem that you've got here is the price scale. Fans are not going to pay £20 now that they can get back into the ground. So I think that's where the system needs to be completely reevaluated.
Yeah, and your point on a sort of like a more sort of internalised model that everyone would sort of subscribe to. I think the League of Ireland did that last season when they faced the pandemic.
Yeah, they still do. Yep.
Yeah, jumped in on that. And I think it's been a pretty good success for them. Scottish football, I mean, cooperation is just the furthest word away from those clubs, isn't it? I mean, you said that the money would be shared, but you'd get those arguments, well, Celtic and Rangers fans are paying so much more money. Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen probably feel the same. Folk would say, Aki's kind of get a decent cut considering they have however many fans. Like, that's just the arguments you'd get, and it turns into this point scoring thing instead of thinking this could actually be better for all of us as fans. And sometimes you should be looking out for yourself as fans and sort of thinking we need to get the most. I mean, it's a working class sport, and you want people to be able to watch it. I think that's people being priced out of their football clubs, both in terms of attending it and watching it on a stream, is one of the sort of saddest indictments on Scottish football. So until you can get a more cooperative and sort of forward-thinking people at the top of the clubs and people at the top of the organisations, then I don't really expect it's hard to get angry about because it's so far away from even being a possibility to me.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring in some of the comments here. Robocop comes in to say you can buy Celtic TV internationally, monthly account with a VPN, you can get all the games live. That's the point I was making there. You're not going to be able to sustain these prices if people know a way around it, or they're back at the grounds and they won't be watching it anyway. Owen Mulhern comes in to say the League of Ireland system was very good for his club, Finn Harps, who wouldn't have been able to financially able to stream the games anyway. And that's what we've seen with a lot of these clubs. I mean, if you put in a system, it is quite expensive to put it in. I mean, I don't know what the system's going to be like at Bonnyrigg, but it's not exactly a club that's throwing money away. I mean, it's got to be self-sustainable for them. So it's £6 for tomorrow's game. I think that all in all, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like we said, it's got to be self-sustainable. That's kind of our motto. I mean, there's some of clubs in the lower leagues who sort of are known, and that's what they do, and that's fine that they chuck money at stuff. We don't sort of spend more than we bring in. That's always been our model. And I think £6, I think, for a club who haven't had any fans and we've been stop-start for the last 2 years, and I genuinely think it'll be a high quality game of football. And I think that you've got to sort of look at that and just think that you're paying for a service, aren't you? And we hope we can do a good one. And I hope that fans can get back into the ground soon. We would love to have had some Celtic fans there tomorrow. Unfortunately, we can't because we're capped at 250 fans tomorrow. So that's just the way that is. But I think that clubs have done their absolute best in trying to give a product to fans. I mean, I wish we could have the Hamilton commentator who had to go for a jobby during the game, as he said.
Oh, no. Look, just when you mentioned that, right? So obviously everyone here knows Tony Haggerty from A Celtic State of Mind. That was the reason that Tony Haggerty got the job as a Hamilton commentator, was because of that guy.
It was honestly, it's one of my favourite moments of last season. He went to the wrong game. He turned up at New Douglas Park late, and he was late back for the second half because he was relieving himself and decided to tell everybody on air that. Sometimes Scottish football just proves why it's so undefeated.
Brown Warrior coming in to say talking Raphael Scheid now too. Yeah, it's one of those moments that you're going to see on the kind of the blooper videos for years and years to come. As Eminem comes in to say, remember those dodgy Geordies that just disappeared with people's money? Not me too canny. Now, I don't know if I'm thinking of the same thing, but do you remember ITV Digital back in the day? Or are you too young?
Too young, mate.
So ITV Digital came in with this whole brand new take on football. They were going to introduce a rival to Sky, and it lasted about 6 months at best. Everyone had to get a set-top box that you could watch the games on, and they put in so much money into English football. The end up clubs went bust because they waited on this money coming in. Very similar to what happened with Scottish football with Setanta. When Setanta went bust and Gretna went bust because of it, and other teams really, really struggled. So I think that's what Eminem's talking about. Hopefully he can enlighten us. Owen Mulhern comes in to say Wolves have a £25 deal for 6 pre-season games, which is good. I think fans had to pay a tenner to see Arsenal lose to Hibs as well. Those prices aren't the worst. When we're talking about Livingston charging £20, if you're getting 6 games for £25, that's a good deal.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think there was times where clubs could have been a little bit more sensible and a little bit sort of kinder in the way that they packaged these deals. I mean, the fact that it was just sort of a flat rate for everything maybe didn't work too well. But I mean, like I said, you've got to look at both sides. I mean, because I've seen both sides of it. I know that clubs needed the income and they needed sort of like a steady sort of idea of what was going to come in. So it's a hard one to balance, but I think that fans are too often sort of disregarded in situations like this.
Fraser Olvey coming in to say, bring back those Nick Hancock football nightmare videos. They're brilliant. I used to get them as a kid for Christmas. People saying that they got stung with Setanta. Definitely. I know a lot of people that struggled because of the deal that they had with them. Scott Howe coming in to say, I pay £46 a month for Sky Sports and decent channels. You can get some okay deals, but you won't be paying for BT Sport. I'll find a link in a streaming site. That's the problem. I mean, it's okay if you know your way about the thing. You can bargain with Sky, you can bargain with BT, and you'll get a deal. But I know some people that are paying over £100 a month just for a TV package. That's £1,200 a year. It's just not sustainable, especially when you're then having to pay the pay-per-view on top of that.
Yeah, it's like you said, if people have to pick something to get rid of. If Sky's got a family deal, that means their kids also get those programs, or they also get the sort of the movies for the family or whatever. Then if they're going to have to pick something that they're not going to pay for on a weekly basis, it's going to be £20 to watch their team play at Livingston away, isn't it? That's just the way it's going to be. So hopefully with fans getting back, we don't have to worry about that. I think it's okay if it remains as an option. It just, you worry that perhaps the quality has to change a bit because you're not getting that same income stream from that. We'll have to see how clubs deal with those sort of challenges, as the good news of fans getting back into ground hopefully alleviates that.
Now, very soon we will be joined by Francis Carty from the Endless Celts podcast as Sean goes for 4 in a row on the quiz. I mean, you're starting to go on the old Celtic form there. Are you going for 10 shortly?
Hopefully I don't fall off a cliff.
Well, here's the thing. So here's something that I just want to go back to Owen Mulhern talking about pre-season. I think this is a good way to start. And Fraser Ogilvie, who's watching, I'm very sorry for this, but let's start with some of the interesting pre-season games that we see this year. And Arsenal's defeat to Hibs. Did you manage to see any of that?
Just some clips. It was fantastic defending for their opening goal, I can say that.
That was an absolute howler. That's the howlers that Fraser was talking about earlier on. But it asked me the question of some of the weirdest pre-season trips, tours and games that we've ever seen. Now, the first one that came to my mind, and Fraser says he's off, but he might come back for this one, was Arsenal versus Vietnam in 2013. The Arsenal team flew out to Vietnam and played the national side in a pre-season friendly, and they won 7-1. Olivier Giroud scoring a hat-trick. Can you imagine someone coming and playing a Scottish national team in a pre-season friendly?
And embarrassing them. That wouldn't be... These are the best guys we've got in the entire country, and you've just been absolutely thrashed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how rich Vietnam's footballing history is, but I mean, maybe we should do more of that. You'd like to see sort of country selects against clubs. Why no? If it could be the Euros or something like that, just put a team out there, see what happens.
I mean, if you try to do an SPFL select, I think there would be uproar no matter who you picked. Because you'd be like, oh, no, you've not picked enough Celtic players, or you've not picked enough Rangers players. I don't think it would work. But interesting you say that, because in America they did used to do that. And I remember Celtic going and playing pre-season in America against an MLS select side, and that used to be a sort of big trademark thing, was the teams would fly out to America, they'd play against Man United, Real Madrid, AC Milan's, and MLS select, teams like that, and it just became more of a sort of corporate thing than an actual pre-season friendly, and we're starting to see that more and more now. We see Real Madrid are coming to Ibrox this pre-season. We're seeing things like the Audi Cup, the Wembley Cup, the Emirates Trophy. So when you think back to the stories that used to be told by your uncles, your aunties, your mums and your dads that said, oh no, well, when Kilmarnock, they used to go down to Saltcoats Beach and they'd run lengths up and down Saltcoats Beach. That just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It's all about the revenue that's generated instead of actually putting some game time in the legs.
No, I know, and we kind of spoke about this when we were chatting about the show earlier in the week, and I don't have many sort of like nostalgic, happy memories associated with pre-season. I've never gone on a cool trip that Killie have played. I've never visited anywhere that was a nice sort of like friendly connection with the club. It was nothing. It's all just sort of whatever they can get. It seems to me they always seem to be announced really late. You don't know what's happening until a week before. It ends up being a team just down south, or maybe another Scottish club. Nothing too exciting. They were in Belfast this year. No fans could be there, obviously. I don't sort of associate pre-season with anything, with any of these great stories that we were talking about, or anything too weird or unique. It's just kind of run-of-the-mill, play some games, some fans might come. But I guess for bigger clubs, like you said, it doesn't seem to be too sort of interesting either. You'd wish that happened more often. Those super clubs sort of just played some minutes against a wee local team, or they travelled really far and played against some obscure team, but it's not the case, is it?
Does that happen with Kilmarnock? Do you see friendlies against the likes of like Auchinleck Talbot or any of the big junior teams? Does that happen anymore?
Not really. I mean, not that unless they're sort of behind closed doors, really quiet games. But I mean, I guess it's different now as well, though, because the League Cup, now Premier Sports Cup, whatever we call it now kind of acts as a pre-season tournament, where you have maybe like 2 or 3 friendlies before that, and then you'll use your squad. But this is how I see it as a formerly Premiership club, but we're sort of the highest seeded team in our group most of the time. That you'll play against teams in the lower division, so you can probably afford to try out different things, to play new players, to play ineligible players if you feel like it as well. And,
I wondered when that was coming.
That's another one. Just don't get me started. I mean, I was looking forward to this season. We've managed to copy our team's kit, our rival team's kit, and we've also filled in an ineligible player. So a great start from the Killie boys. But no, I don't think it's very exciting. Premier Sports Cup seems to be, League Cup seems to be sort of the prime of pre-season at the moment. So
it is a weird kind of introduction, but I do like it. I like the idea of pre-season consisting of the League Cup because it was a trophy that was starting to lose a bit of value, I think, and introducing some new teams into it, like East Kilbride are in it from the Lowland League this year as well. Oh, I'm touching too many fucking buttons here. No, but there is some really interesting stories across the pre-season landscape, and I'm going to bring up 3 or 4 that I managed to see. The first one, Fluminense under 23s versus Exeter, and 150 Exeter fans were flown out to Rio de Janeiro to watch this game by Fluminense. It's to do with a partnership that was established about 100 years ago, so back in 1914. But imagine being on that flight from Southampton, it would probably be, or London to Exeter to go and see your team, who were League Two at that time, playing an under-23s team in Rio de Janeiro. What a trip that would be. I don't think you'd ever stop talking about that.
Aye, and surely the football would be like the least important thing of all that. Just going, heading to Rio, and I guess sort of the nostalgia or the sort of weird situation you'd be in to see your football club who normally play in League Two, like you're saying at the time, to go and play in Brazil is just mental, and it's amazing that got to happen. I'm sure it's memories that would live with those fans for a long, long time. It's not something you see very often at all.
So the rules here was they were playing for a trophy, and it was decided that if Exeter could win or draw, they would take home the trophy. Against an under-23 side, it finished 0-0, so there is a trophy in the Exeter cabinet straight from Rio de Janeiro. Brian Moore coming in to say, was it not to do with their strips? It may well have been. I didn't get fully into it, but there is some footage on my Twitter from that game. Now, I'm just picturing the red and white Exeter's kit. It's got Flyby across it, and they're playing against like the up-and-coming Brazilian talent. It's a mismatch of the century, surely.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I think the partnership is, if Exeter were one of the first opponents to play Brazil back in 1914 or something like that. There's a weird sort of connection going right back. So it was like 100 years later that Exeter would come back to Brazil. That was the idea behind it. And it's just a crazy, crazy story. And let's see if it happens another 100 years. Hopefully we get to go back again.
Speaking about interesting stories, have you ever heard the one about when Plymouth Argyle kicked Real Madrid out of a hotel?
Because I was looking for stuff for this segment, yes, I have. But I don't, so fill me in.
So anyone who isn't aware of this story, back in 2006, Plymouth Argyle were in Austria for a pre-season friendly tour. Their manager at the time was Ian Holloway, the famous Ian Holloway. What a guy. I'd love to interview that guy because I think it would go on for days.
Sorry to jump in, but it was a few years ago. I can't remember. Kelly have so many managers, but he came out in the press and said that he wanted the Kilmarnock job. And I was
what like, a sight he'd have been in Scottish football.
This could have been, it could go horrendous, but I would have loved to have seen Ian Holloway's Kilmarnock manager in Scottish football, like you said. He wouldn't have taken any of the rubbish that goes on. He would have been calling people out left, right, and centre. I just think, I mean, it could end up a disaster for my club personally, but for entertainment value, Ian Holloway in Scottish football would have been unbelievable. Sorry, Colin.
Oh, that would have been great. I mean, imagine him even on something like Super Scoreboard. That would have been outstanding. Anyways, so Plymouth Argyle are in pre-season, and Real Madrid decide that they're going to Austria for pre-season at the last minute. When they get to the hotel that they normally go to, they find out that Plymouth Argyle are there, and Ian Holloway says they are not for moving. So what they decide to do is have a game against each other, and basically it was a nice thing that Real Madrid offered as a pre-season friendly. That meant that once Plymouth Argyle had finished the game, they were leaving the base. A 1-0 victory for Real Madrid, who actually played quite a star-studded team back then. That must have been a bit of a morale booster for Plymouth to think they could take someone like Real Madrid, who were regulars in the quarter semi-finals of the Champions League, even in a pre-season game, to that sort of extreme that was only 1-0.
Yeah, definitely. It would have been great. And I think they managed to do it in just about enough time that some fans could get out, which is pretty amazing as well. I would have been pushing for it. I said, you've got to come to us. You've got to come down south in England and come and play us there, because I think that's what you need to do. I mean, there was that one where Real Madrid played Bournemouth, I think, a few years ago.
Yep. And they won 6-0. Yeah.
Just to get those sort of that caliber of players there, and like the airport, you'd see them fly in, and it would be all the excitement of them travelling to their hotel for this game. I just think getting those absolute stars, get them to your own turf and get them to experience it there, because I'm sure, nothing against Plymouth particularly, but I'm sure they've seen some absolutely hopeless players in front of them. I know I have. And I think that to get to see some of the best players in the world come and visit your stomping ground would be pretty amazing.
And I mean, what would you do? Is it a case of winner keeps the training camp? Is that? Do you think that's what happened, or do you think there was a bit of a money exchanged hands so that basically Real Madrid got what they wanted?
You definitely imagine so. I'm pretty sure that. I mean, I think it was Fabio Capello was the manager there. I think I imagine him being in the ears of some people trying to get a deal done. It worked out pretty well. I'm sure those Plymouth players and the fans who got to be there will remember that for a long, long time. And I'm sure the Plymouth players made do in whatever hotel they ended up in. I'm surprised that Plymouth and Real Madrid had the same hotel on their list there. I'm surprised.
Budget, say?
It's interesting, but I don't know what was going on at Argyle at the time. But or maybe Real Madrid just wanted to go it cheap, but they wanted the same hotel, and of course the big boys come out on top. But I'm glad that those players got that game.
Do you remember one recently, Everton, when Marco Silva was in charge, and they went to Austria for pre-season? Just when we're on the topic of Austria, they played a 4th division team called ATV. Is it Erding? And they won 22-0. I don't know if you ever remember seeing the highlights for that game, but basically by the end, the goalkeeper was like, "Score."
Just can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
What's the highest number of goals you've seen Celtic score live?
Highest number of goals I've seen live is 9-0, I think, when we beat Aberdeen. What about yourself?
I don't think I've seen us score over 4. We beat Hamilton 5-0 in Steve Clark's last season, but I wasn't at that game for some reason, and I think
part-timer.
I think it's like 4-0. I don't think it's anything too impressive.
I don't think I've seen a double digits one. That's one for the comment section. If you're watching live, let us know what the highest score is that you've seen.
Just that 10-0 against Cowdenbeath a few years ago. That's when I obviously being from here, I hear that quite a lot. A 10-0 win. That's a dream. Double figures is a dream.
The one I remember with double figures was Morton. It was the last day of the season, and Hamilton needed to win by 8 clear goals to go up. And the final score was Hamilton 10, Morton 2. I think a couple of people were put in for maybe a wee bit of the dodgy betting on that one. But
sounds right.
Not at all. Final one on the pre-seasons before we're just about to be joined shortly by Francis Carty. 1914, we spoke about that earlier on. We spoke about that to the Fluminense Exeter thing. But that was the first year that a European champion was crowned in football. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
European champions were crowned in 1914, and the winners were Celtic.
Okay. Let's make that European champions thing. Tell me more.
So basically, back in 1914, both Celtic and Burnley were playing in their pre-season over in Hungary, and it was set up by the chairman of Ferencváros that they would play each other in a tournament, and basically Celtic and Burnley made the final, and it was a 1-each draw on the day. It was decided that there wouldn't be extra time, but instead Celtic would travel down to Toughmoor and play Burnley in a friendly match later on that year, which Celtic won 2-1, making them the unofficial first European champions of football. Now, what makes this even more interesting is Celtic didn't receive the trophy that was commissioned for that. They only got it in 1988, 74 years later.
It's a long time to be waiting.
I mean, it's probably about as long since Kilmarnock's been waiting for a trophy. But let's move on from that, because I've just remembered that horrible night at Hampden Park. But this year's pre-season, I mean, you see it a lot where, I mean, Roma yesterday, they played a 4th division team from Italy and won 10-0. Do you think there is something in that about playing the sort of lower ranked teams to build the morale ahead of the season, or are you wanting very similar to the Premier Sports Cup. You want to be playing teams of a similar level so that when it gets to the season properly, you're thinking, that's it, we're up to speed and we're ready to go.
I think a good mix can be good. I think people tend to read into pre-season results a bit too much. I think you can get thrashed in a pre-season game, and as long as sort of you've got your fitness up and as long as you're switched on for the first game of the season, then I wouldn't be too concerned about how you're getting on results-wise in pre-season. I've seen people get upset about managers and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure it was I bet it was mainly Spurs fans, but Arteta out was trending during the week there, wasn't it?
No wonder.
I mean, they've got their other reasons as well, but I don't think many people would actually mean it off the basis of that game. But before we do move on, I just want to say that like I said, I wasn't too sure on pre-season results, so I did some research to find some impressive Kilmarnock pre-season results. And in the New York Cup in 1960, Killie beat English League champions Burnley and Bayern Munich to get out their group. And they got all the way to the final in that, and they were beaten by a Brazilian team called Bunga, who I've never heard before.
That's one I'd like to look into. That sounds pretty interesting.
And then they came back to rugby part of the season after to play us again, that Brazilian team.
I actually read up on there was a team in Texas back in, I think it was 1967, who were bankrolled by a Texas oil guard, and they went on a tour of Asia. It was a 3-month tour. They played 42 games, won 6 of them, were booed off the park for about 15 of them, and actually were assaulted off the park in one of them. And basically that team folded as soon as they get back. That is how a pre-season can go absolutely wrong.
Yeah, you need to watch out for those. I'm glad that I said they're a wee bit boring now, but maybe that's a good thing based off that.
Now, also a massive part of pre-season is the transfer window, and it's been open now for a while. We've seen some of the big moves, and we're going to discuss that as well with Francis when he joins us in a second. But so far, Sean, what's been the biggest move, do you think, in this transfer window, not just in Scotland but across the footballing world?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? That is a big question. I mean, it's an interesting window because not much is happening because clubs are skint is the sort of bottom line of it, and it seems to really only be the English clubs who have money to spend. So I guess you've got to say that the marquee move is Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, which is one we spoke about. Was that just last week or maybe the week?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah. 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I think that's got to be the standout one so far. I mean, a young player who's been highly revered in Germany, getting his move to back to England is a really, really interesting one. One that's probably fallen under the radar, and it wouldn't be sort of the most eye-catching one for me, but the one that I'm interested in personally is Rodrigo de Paul to Atletico Madrid. He had a man of the match performance in the Copa America final, which I was so glad to see Lionel Messi get his first international trophy because he absolutely deserves it.
Yep.
And De Paul was fantastic in that game. They played so well, played that ball over the top when that was finished off beautifully by Angel Di Maria. And him going to Atletico Madrid probably spells the end of Saul's time at Atleti, and it looks like he might be involved in a swap deal for Antoine Griezmann to come back, and he would go to Barcelona. But I think Atletico are obviously looking to sort of retain their Premier League. I don't think so. La Liga title, and I think like De Paul makes that really interesting. A sort of more technical midfielder, but of course he's still got that South American grit. I'm sure it's a player that Diego Simeone will relish working with. So if that'd probably be like my sleeper pick. I get Sancho for your sort of marquee, but one to keep an eye on will be De Paul.
That was your hipster pick.
My hipster pick.
We're going to introduce Francis just now, and then we're going to bring up this comment from Fraser Ogilvie. So first, joining us from the Endless Celts podcast is Francis Carty. Francis, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad, Colin. How's yourselves?
Yeah, not too bad. It's great to have you. And you'll be challenging Sean very soon in the quiz. But first of all, we're going to go through some transfer rumours, and I want to get basically as short as possible an answer so we can have time for the quiz later on. How you think it'll either be a yes or no, and maybe just a wee reason why. But first of all, this ties in perfectly with Fraser Ogilvie's point here. It says Barca's transfers and situations is a mental one. It absolutely is, because it looks as if they're going to have to make some massive changes in this transfer window just to comply with La Liga rules. The first one being Lionel Messi on a 5-year contract at a 50% pay cut. Now, Francis, we've seen what Messi can do, especially against our club, Celtic, but a 5-year contract at his age, is that a wise move financially for the club?
Well, no, considering their financial situation, but I think I read something somewhere like he'll go into an ambassador role, so he'll earn sort of for the same money as a 3-year deal, but it'll just be over the 5-year, if you like.
I don't know, Sean. I mean, it just seems a bit like a kind of way around these fair play rules, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, if you're taking a 50% cut, he's got to be guaranteed the same sort of money over a longer period of time. I think that's the kind of the point there. So I think that it will happen. You're going to want to keep Messi there as sort of a commercial entity, as well as the fact that he's still one of the best footballers in the world, if not the best. So I think that one happens.
I mean, what we're talking, he'll go from £1 million a week to £500,000 a week. How will Leo Messi survive? I mean, he's going to have to sell the Lamborghini. He's going to have to sell the house. You're going to see fundraisers on the TV for £2 a month. You can sponsor Leo Messi. Probably.
I think he'll survive.
You think? I don't know.
Just
maybe he'll make.
Slightly.
It's a struggle. Could you survive on £500,000 a week?
I'd maybe need to start shopping in Waitrose as opposed to Marks and Spencer's.
It's too good for us. I'm an Aldi shopper. So let's take a look at this then. So Sancho was said that deal looks as if it's going to go ahead. But the other one that sort of ties into that is Harry Kane. £100 million is the asking price. I've seen a comment today from the eventual Spurs manager, Nuno Santo Espirito, who says he's a Spurs player and he's going nowhere. Sean, can Spurs afford to turn down £100 million?
Probably. I think they probably can. I think the money seems to be in England at the moment, and I think they could probably hold on. If it maybe went up to say 140, 150 million, that might make a difference. But I had one of those feelings that Harry Kane's going to be one that the talk goes on all summer and then he just ends up staying put. So I'm going to say that he stays at Spurs next season. Francis,
Harry Kane staying or leaving?
I kind of agree with Sean. I think he stays just simply because of the money involved. I think you're going to have to go well upwards of 100 million. And Man City seem the only team interested in. It's not really Pep Guardiola's thing to kind of do that kind of deal with that sort of price. He's more buy 3 or 4 players at 50, 60 million. So, but Man City do need a striker, so they may go all out for Kane.
Definitely. Fraser Olvey comes in here with a brilliant point. Messi won't be getting Sky and BT this season.
Just Premier for him.
That's where La Liga's on. We'll be touching there next. But the Raga 3 coming in to say 100 mil for Kane is daft at that age. I think he is, what is he, 27, 28 now? There's no real sell-on value, so it's what you're going to get back.
There's also the sort of shadow of Haaland, who will only be 67 million next summer at his age as well, his talent. So can City ride it out for a season without a sort of brilliant striker, or what do they do? Do they get someone in just for a season and then try and ride it out for Haaland, or will Haaland go to Chelsea this summer? There's so many questions there, but I think that's the more sort of attractive option, is to get a younger player in who looks to be a superstar.
You're reading my book. He's reading my book right in front of me. That's what I was going to mention next.
I've seen a thing they were possibly going for Lewandowski because they thought it was hard to get Kane, so that would maybe fall into Haaland as well. You get Lewandowski at 33 and then get Haaland next season. That would maybe work at City, but it's a lot of money.
The fee rumoured for Haaland this summer is in excess of £100 million. Some people quoting 150 million it will take for Dortmund to sell. That kind of makes sense with the fact that they just made £72 million off Jadon Sancho. The club's interested, Chelsea, Real Madrid and PSG. He doesn't move for me. There's no chance anyone's paying £150 million for a striker this summer.
Nah. Knowing if that contract thing's true that he can go for like 63 or 67 next summer, you just kind of hold off a bit.
Yeah, I think that was always the plan of him. It's always been sort of like planned out that he would have a couple of seasons at Dortmund and then the release clause would kick in sort of a couple of seasons in, so he would have a chance to move. It's always been very sort of strategic with him that he wanted game time and then he'd make a move to sort of a super club. So the 67 million next season, I think it is, and I think pretty much all the European elite will be putting in a bid next season for that release clause. It would just be a sort of case of where does Haaland want to go. But they've sold Sancho.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them selling Haaland as well this summer.
No, me neither. Let's touch on someone who had a fantastic European Championships. It's someone, when we were speaking on the show last week, we're talking about who's going to be the one that gets that massive move from it. And it looks as if Federico Chiesa could be that man. Bayern Munich interested for £80 million. Is he someone that fits into the Bayern Munich system, Sean?
Probably is a direct winger. He's a goal threat. I've seen Chelsea linked as well. That one doesn't make too much sense to me, considering they're playing a back three now and they've already got Reece James who plays there, or Ziyech or Callum Hudson-Odoi. So to spend more money out there would be strange to me. But there's quite a lot of wingers at Bayern Munich at the moment who really they've invested time and money in, and you'd want them to sort of come good before you have to spend a massive amount of money on Chiesa. But the thing is with these young players and the sort of financial situation we're in is they might never be this cheap again. You might never be able to get a Chiesa or a Pedri or something like that for this sort of money. So maybe you go for it. But I don't know. I think Juventus might just have enough cash to sort of hold on to him, and they'll be desperate to because he had a fantastic Euros, like you said.
Francis, £80 million for Chiesa. Do you think that's a move he'd have got if he didn't play in this tournament?
Not if he didn't play in the tournament anyway. I mean, he had a good campaign. He's been pretty decent for Juventus, but where Juventus are, if they really want to try and win the Champions League and stuff, and selling somebody like Chiesa doesn't make sense for me, especially Ronaldo obviously getting on a bit, although he just seems to be a bit like Messi, where he just defies odds season in, season out. So, but yeah, I see Chiesa staying because I just think Juventus probably have got the money to keep him, and they're in a position to do so.
I'm going to go through some of the comments that's coming in. Fraser Ogilvie coming in to say City also going for Grealish, £100 million. Anyone pay that for him?
Yeah,
I think so.
You would? You
Yeah,
would? I don't think he's worth that at all. I don't think he's worth that at all. I don't. Frank Brennan coming in to say Kane now 28 years of age, and up until now he's had a nice easy life at Wee Spurs on mega money too. He never ever struck me as one of football's natural winners, so he'll stay where he is. I mean, sometimes you just find a club that's the right fit for you, and I think with Harry Kane that could be the case.
Yeah, he didn't get on too well winning that trophy at the Euros either, so maybe Spurs is the right place for him.
Robert Baker also coming in to say Bayern could turn Chiesa into their main striker. You never know. Well, it will be interesting. We will touch on this later on once the transfer window comes towards a close, but we have to move on. We're fast approaching the end of the show, and it's time for the quiz. Sean, you're going for 4 in a row. You are a current champion. It is your decision whether you go first or second this week.
Second's done me well the last two, but maybe you know that and you've weighted the questions against me in that second one. I know what you're like. You'll try and sabotage me at any opportunity you get. So for that reason, I'm going to go first. You are going first. So Francis, you'll follow after Sean. First question, okay. Who scored Italy's winning penalty in the Euro 2020 final? Oh, that's a good question because they didn't win it with a winner.
I've weighted the questions.
Is it Bernardeschi?
It is Bernardeschi. Well done. 1-0. That one was pulled out of the back of his trousers. That was outstanding.
That was good.
Francis, your first question. Which Scottish player captained Team GB's women versus New Zealand this week?
I'm just going to pass if that's an option. I've not got a
clue. Sean, any ideas?
Is it Kim Little?
It was Kim Little. So it's still 1-0. You don't get the point, so it's fine. It's still 1-0 to Sean. Sean, question 2. Hibs and Aberdeen found out their UEFA Conference League opponents yesterday. Can you name one of the sides that they're coming up against? Either one.
Actually, I've completely missed that. I've no idea who either of them are playing. Oh wait, well I've seen how many folk Aberdeen can have in for that game, but it's a weird name. It's like NS Runak or something like that. I don't know.
Is that what you're going with?
Go with that. I don't know what NSI Runak, NS Runak. I don't know.
Francis, any ideas?
No. And if he's got this right, I'm away.
Hibs are playing the Moldovan team Santa Coloma, and Aberdeen are playing Swedish side BK Häcken.
Yeah, see, I don't know where I've got that from.
Do you think that? Well, quickly, will both teams get through?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
we'll go with that. Okay. Speaking of the Conference League, Francis, this is your chance to level it up. Who are England's representative in the Conference League this year?
Oh, is it Spurs, is it not?
It is Spurs. It's 1-1 after 2. Sean, question number 3 for you. UEFA announced a rule change this week. That means a player can change country if he's under the age of 21 and has played less than how many caps for his country?
Oh, I don't know either. I should have thought it second.
Shock. I was like...
Now, this came in because of Callum Hudson-Odoi this week, who looks as if he will be transferring his nationality from England to Ghana after the racist incidents that followed the Euro 2020 final. He has made full appearances for England, but under this new rule, he can change because he made them before he was 21 years old. So how many are you allowed to make before you can change your mind?
I reckon it's going to be 5 or 10. And which one do I go for? 10's quite a lot, by the way. Like, you don't actually make that many. Go with 5.
It's actually 3. It's only 3.
Nah, I would have went 5. Like, I'd have went 5.
Yeah,
like it should have been around this number.
That's terrible. 3.
That's your chance to take the lead here, Francis. Who scored Argentina's winning goal in the Copa America final?
He wasn't watching the show.
Paul.
No, it wasn't. It was Angel
I heard
Di
you mention
Maria.
that.
So it's still one each after 3, which leads us to question number 4, and this one for you, Sean. Which Dutch legend announced his second retirement this week at the age of 37?
I know that one.
I don't. I've been a bit out of it this week, to be honest. I've not been my usual self. Second retirement. Dutch legend. Did Robin retire already? Did John Percy retire already? I think Robin retired already. I'll say Ian Robin.
Who is it, Francis?
Robin.
It's Ian Robin. That is you pulled that one out there. That was outstanding, Sean. This is why you're on a run in this.
Here we go.
Francis, another difficult one, unfortunately. Which Spanish goalkeeper was this week unmasked on the Spanish version of The Masked Singer as a penguin?
Oh my God!
You didn't know I was going to put the second one. You thought
do you know what it is, right? Jerry, who is a loyal watcher of this show, he came in a couple of weeks ago and told me the questions were too easy. So this one's for you, Jerry. I don't even know if you're watching this week. He'll be watching on the catch-up. I want to see his answers to these.
I will. Cheers, Jerry.
You can thank Jerry over in Miami.
Kim, just because he's blonde hair, I'm going to go Santiago Canizares. I'm just going to chuck him out there.
Who would you have went with, Sean?
Casillas?
It was Pepe Reina.
Wow.
Pepe Reina. So that means it's still 2-1. Oh, look. Owen Mulhern coming in saying Pepe Reina. He got it right. See? Some people read the news.
He's giggled that.
Sean, this is your chance to win it. This will be 3-1 and you'll not be able to come back from this. Which player rejoined Lazio today from West Ham on a permanent move?
Oh, I know that one as well.
Felipe Anderson.
It was Felipe Anderson.
It's brutal. That
was. Do you know what? I'll work on them for next week. But that makes it 3-1. The one I was going to give you, Francis, was it was on Wolves, and which Wolves keeper made the move to Roma this week?
Oh, I've just totally went blank because I was going to say the boy they signed. Oh, what's his name? Because he actually played in the Euros too for them.
I was thinking some of them were quite hard, so I gave some of the easier ones at the end there just so we could level up.
I've totally went blank with that keeper as well.
It was Rio Patricio, yep. So they finished 3-2, which is a comfortable score, but that is 4 in a row now for Sean. Sean, 15 seconds to go.
I'm not doing it. That's too. That's twice that the Endless Celts boys have been done by hard questions. I think. So I'm just really good at picking the right questions. I need to go with my gut because it's working every time. I can set a question. I'm quite happy.
Correct.
And we are short on time this week because the Clyde boys are just about to come in and kick me out of the studio. So I'm going to save the tiebreaker for next week. And I tell you, it is an absolute humdinger of a tiebreaker. So, Seán, you'll be going for 5 in a row. Will we see if we can get someone from the NRG Sport team to try and dethrone you? Otherwise, I'm going to have to start getting you a title belt that you can hold up.
If one of them who beats me, it'll be hard to take. But I guess we can see what happens.
Francis, tell everyone where they can find you on socials and tell us a bit about the Endless Celts.
So you can find us at the Endless Celts. If you type in at Endless Celts, it'll give you a link to our YouTube page and that. We just kind of started at the start of this year and that, and it's just kind of grew a wee bit. So hopefully it comes with something, but it seems to be doing well, and we kind of appreciate your support and stuff and getting us on to help us promote and stuff, and also coming on to our show. So yeah, thanks very much, Colin, for the invite.
Yeah, and also check out Seán and Amy when they are doing the commentary for Bonnyrigg Rose tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to throw some of these questions in just as we as when he's sitting there pre-match. The game's live. It is on Bonnyrigg Rose's TV channel, which is online. Strange one, but hey ho. Check it out. We'll be back next week with the Football Insomniac. Thank you once again for joining us. Until then, have a safe weekend. Take care, and we'll see you next week.